Hey guys, welcome back to the Bite Size Podcast with me, Roscoe. The subject of this week is, I kind of touched on it last episode, where I suggested that my dislike for certain genres made me miss certain good games. The prime example for me would be shoot 'em ups, and which I was mainly because I was shit at them, and RPGs because I kind of got a little bit burnt out almost playing Secret of Mana and Zelda. So I missed out stuff. I never played a single Final Fantasy game, and I missed out on Chrono Trigger, Breath of Fire 2. Was it The Secret of Evermore? There was a follow-up to Secret of Mana, or kind of in the same sort of. A lot of games. Is it what Illusion of Gaia or something springs to mind? There's a lot. These are just on the Super Nintendo. I mean, there's other ones like the Phantasy Star series on the Mega Drive or Genesis, whatever. Anyway, so the question, what I wanted to kind of, it wasn't a question because the answer's obvious really this week, but more of a statement and a kick up the arse of people like me who've done this. But basically, if you were a fan of Nintendo specifically, like I was, that's not quite true. I owned a Game Boy and a Super Nintendo. I never really got into the NES, to be honest. By the time I got into gaming, the Super Nintendo was the console to own. But that also meant that money-wise, I wasn't inclined to save up for a Mega Drive to play. Some of the best games were also on the Super Nintendo. Stuff like Desert Strike or the FIFA games, although I never really got into FIFA, to be honest. But quite a lot of the good games were also available on the Super Nintendo, so I don't really see the point. And plus, a friend of mine had a Mega Drive, as they were called, on this side of the pond, and he owned most of the games like Sonic that I was interested in playing. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that being a fan of or only ever owning one console means that you've missed out on some great games of all different types. I mean, this kind of thing cropped around from listening to a podcast by some guys called Retro Collect, and their most recent podcast was on Streets of Rage series, which was a Sega series. So when I played Final Fight, because I had that on the Super Nintendo, but it also meant that I missed out on a good game in Streets of Rage, and they were more specific in saying that Streets of Rage 2 was the best one and Streets of Rage 2 was a bit shit. But if I go on the cool ROM, which is where I would possibly, if I was into that sort of thing, would get ROMs to play on an emulator, looking at the list of the top rated Genesis games, there's quite a few on there that are Sega only. Obviously Sonic the Hedgehog comes up number one. Mortal Kombat, which isn't specific to the Super Nintendo, but did have an advantage on the Mega Drive, that they actually had red blood. Nintendo censored the Super Nintendo version of Mortal Kombat and had green slime, I seem to remember. Going down the list, we've got Sonic 2, Sonic and Knuckles, which I didn't really enjoy, Sonic 3, Streets of Rage, Sonic and Knuckles, is anything else that's Sonic Classics, just trying to see what else on the Golden Axe, Afterburner, Streets of Rage 2, doesn't get that higher rating actually, for some reason. There's also stuff like the Phantasy Star games that I want to play. I've got a massive list of games I want to play through. At the moment I'm playing through Zelda Link of Oracle of Seasons, mainly because I've heard rather, you can get emulators for my phone, which is a Windows phone, and I'm playing it on there. I don't like the fact I've got a virtual direction pad. That's pissing me off a bit, to be honest, but other than that, it's not bad. I'm getting through it, following a guide online. I don't consider that cheating. I mean, the game's old enough. I haven't got a lot of time, and I'd like to see everything there is to see rather than spend hours getting lost, basically. Which is why I'm using it. Oh, Shinobi as well is another series that I never really tried that is worth trying, basically. So, the point I was trying to make in this week's podcast is, if like me, you only ever owned consoles belonging to a certain company, you've missed out on some good games. Likewise, if you only ever owned a Mega Drive, then you missed out on stuff like Super Mario and Yoshi's Island. And if you're a platform fan, then they're fantastic games. I mean, I've never been a fan of Pilot Wings, for example, but I thought F-Zero was good fun. Mario Kart, the first one I enjoyed, the rest all struck me as being similar, and then I realised that it's not a racing game, it's just a driving game that involves a race, and it's fucking potluck whether you win or not, but that's just my kind of irritation with the game that playing it on the Wii recently with my son, I can be in first place start to finish, get to halfway around the last lap, and then I suddenly get whacked up the backside by a load of red shells, ink in my face, get shrunk, bananas thrown at me, blah 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 blah. So anyway, that's another reason why I won't play Mario Kart. But again, if you owned a Mega Drive, you missed out on games. If you didn't own a Dreamcast, you missed out on some cracking games. If you didn't own a Saturn, you missed out on Sega Rally. Time Crisis. What was it called? Similar to Time Crisis, Virtua Cop. You didn't play on the PlayStation. There was what was it called? That driving game that came out. Shit. Well, there was Gran Turismo on the PlayStation. There was Sega Rally on the Saturn. There's a whole host of games that you missed out on, basically. So this isn't a question of me asking you, do you think you missed out? It's me telling you you did miss out, and you should make an effort to go and do something about it. For those listening or watching on YouTube, I hope you enjoy watching me play Streets of Rage 2, which was a nod to the guys at Retro Collect. If you're listening to it on your phone or through your computer, then you'll have to just imagine that I'm playing Streets of Rage 2. I did kind of impose it behind a it made it look like you were playing on a normal shitty old TV with some vintage wallpaper on there as well, just for a laugh. But anyway, you have to just assume that it looked pretty cool. So anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Take it easy, and I will catch up with you as soon as I can do another podcast. Oh, on that subject, the laptop I used to use at home for recording, I've had to put Windows 10 on it, the technical preview, so I can run Visual Studio and try and get this fucking game that I'm writing finished. The downside is it takes up so many resources that when I try and even just a simple sound recorder doesn't work. It sounds like I've done it on a tape deck at half speed. It sounds appalling, so I've got to do it on other occasions, or I might even have to use my phone. I'll have to see how the sound quality comes on that. But anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Take it easy, and I'll catch up with you soon. Bye.